The Met Police could do a U-turn on Gaza protest restrictions after widespread backlash. We're going to read into this more from Byline Times, you guys. Let's go. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. This is Reganelite here with an article from Byline Times with the headline that the Met Police could U-turn after Gaza protest restrictions after widespread backlash. The force likely to allow Gaza demonstrations need broadcasting house following criticisms from MPs and campaign groups. Guys, while you're here, make sure you hit the like button and share this across social media so others are notified of this video. I should point out that this is being recorded on Friday the 17th for reference as well, because obviously some of the things that we're going to be discussing in the article, there is going to be a protest taking place on Saturday, but obviously this article will be out on Sunday or Monday, whenever time you see it, so it'll be after. So it's entirely possible that they may have done this U-turn, they may not have done the U-turn following this. So for a long time, the Metropolitan Police have been extremely, I would say they have, while they haven't completely restricted Gaza protesters, they've certainly made life more difficult. I'd say definitely the Conservatives are responsible for making it very difficult for them too. That they haven't outright stopped it, which is good, because obviously many people in the UK have very obviously very heartfelt feelings about what's happening in the Middle East, whether it is people who are supportive of the Palestinian people and what's happening to them inside the Gaza Strip, and there are even those obviously who are supportive of Israel and what they are doing, supportive of the IDF, supportive of the Israeli government and the decisions that they are making. We don't have to agree with their protest, but they have a right to speak their mind and stand in solidarity with Israel, even if we fundamentally disagree with them, because freedom of speech, people should have that right to do so. But we know that they've been more brutal, more harsher with those who are in support of Gaza. I think it's very clear to say that that the majority, pretty much, very maybe tiny minority, probably support Hamas, but the majority do not, and that we want the Palestinian people to be given their own future, to be given their own state within the Gaza Strip so they can have their own land. And this is something that's consistently been a big challenge for them, because Israel have made life incredibly difficult for them to do so. And obviously since October the 7th attack, and the response by Israel since then has been nothing short of barbaric. And obviously right now, over this period, obviously we don't know, and it's entirely possible that the ceasefire deal may have collapsed by the time we're talking, by the time you see this video as well. So I can't really say whether it's still going to happen or not, because there's been infighting within the Israeli government over whether to agree to this deal or not. There have been added concessions that they've added to the deal as well, which Hamas initially agreed to the deal, and now Israel are adding concessions. It's always been Israel's problem when it comes to the deal, not Hamas. So I think that's important as well. But what I do want to say is that people should have a right to protest, whether you are supportive of Gaza, whether you're supportive of climate change, whether it is Extinction Rebellion, whatever your protest should be. But it should be done with reason, within certain boundaries. Of course, protesters are supposed to make noise. They're supposed to cause disruption. That's their whole point. But there are lines when it comes to protesting, and some of the things that Just Stop Oil have done, they have crossed the lines, in my opinion, when it comes to their protesting. I understand that they want to get people talking more about their cause. I totally understand that, as with any other cause out there. But there are lines, and they have crossed lines in the past. And as long as they are done, as long as protesters are done within a certain means, then it should be perfectly suitable to do so. So let's read more into this, guys. So the Metropolitan Police, the Met Police for short, appears to reverse a controversial move to block a protest outside the BBC over reporting on Gaza this Saturday. That's the Saturday now, for those wondering. The demonstration, organised by the Palestine Solidarity Campaign, Stop the War, and other anti-war groups, have been challenged by Jewish figures, including the Chief Rabbi, for taking place near the Central Synagogue London on the Jewish Day of Rest, Shabbat. It is a 4-minute walk from the BBC's HQ. New broadcasting house in Westminster, though not directly on the planned march route. The Met Police plan to use conditions under the Public Order Act to prevent the protests at the BBC on Portland Place, on the grounds that it would cause disruption to the synagogue. It is despite the groups claiming the Met Police have verbally agreed on them holding a demonstration outside the BBC in negotiations last November. The police have come under heavy scrutiny from all sides over its policing of the Gaza protests, which have been almost weekly since Israel launched its latest offensive on Gaza following Hamas terror attacks on October the 7th. Well, speaking on Thursday, a source close to the protest organisers said, "It looks as if the police are retreating from their position that we can go to Russell Square. I think they are conceding quite seriously on that. That can entirely change, let's be very clear." The Met Police had a meeting this morning where they essentially agreed but said they need to confirm this, so it looks as if the pressure has succeeded in forcing them to back down. At the moment, Palestinian campaigners are calling on people to come to assembly at Whitehall as agreed, as an announcement is expected on Thursday night. A statement from the Palestine Solidarity Campaign said this week that there had not been a single documented case of threats of incidents at a synagogue in relation to the National Palestine March that have taken place in the last 15 months of the Gaza genocide. And that speaks a lot of volumes right there about this protesters that, because any, especially Zionists, will try to weaponize the protesters, claiming that they are in support of Hamas in some way, shape, or form, if that was to be the case. And that's not been the case with when it comes to the Palestinian protesters. Hundreds of political, social, and cultural figures have voiced their support for the right of protest to go ahead outside the BBC. The group argued that the BBC is failing to uphold its own editorial guidelines in the reporting of Israelis' actions, including MPs, trade unions, leaders, civil society leaders, actors, musicians, and artists. A letter organised by the Jewish blog in which attends in support of every Palestine march has attracted nearly 900 signatures by members of the Jewish community, calling on the Met to reverse its ban. A group of Holocaust survivors and their dead descendants have also written a public letter in support of the march. A spokesperson for the PSC said the groups were calling on all those who support an immediate ceasefire and an end to Israel's genocide in Gaza, as well as everyone who believes in the democratic right to protest, to join us at London at 12 noon on Saturday the 18th of January. Groups plan to assemble in Whitehall, whether it is banned or not, to march towards the BBC on Saturday. Another source added that things may be resolving better than we thought. A ceasefire was announced between Israel and Hamas this week, but Israeli airstrikes have continued since then, and the Israeli government has suggested that the deal has not been finalised. In December, some Jewish leaders condemned the Met Police for allowing Palestinian protesters near the synagogues. Chief Rabbi Sir Embryn Mervis said there can be no justification for making a clear commitment that the routes of pro-Palestine marches will not come anywhere close to the local synagogues. It is hard to see the absence of such a commitment as anything other than a failure of the Met's duty to protect to members of the Jewish communities who no longer feel safe walking to and from their synagogues on the Shabbat. This is not true. He's saying that that members of the Jewish community, there are Jewish people who are standing in solidarity with the Palestinian marches. There are many Jewish people who are not affected at all by what's happening. There are some that are, but this is not everyone. I want to make that clear. And this premise that all Jews are no longer safe walking, that's I don't buy that at all. Because if they weren't, there would be more police protection. Palestinian campaigners said the Met Police had then contacted them to say they would not be allowed to march near the BBC. The Met Police said it was unconnected to this public statement. You're just taking us for fools there. On Wednesday evening, the Met Police put out a statement threatening mass arrests to protesters march outside the BBC have planned. Anyone breaching the condition and inciting others to do so is committing an offence. The consequences for doing so include arrest. We don't want to have to arrest people, but we have the resources to do so, including at scale, if we need to, the statement said. The added, we know some reporting has suggested that this is a ban on protests outside the BBC in general. This is absolutely not the case. We recognise the PSCs wants to protect at the BBC, and we're offering to work with them in considering alternate days of the week to do so we can be confident it wouldn't cause serious disruption to the lives of those attending the synagogue. While we are also aware that some of the more recent commentary is suggesting that reversing the route should be accepted because the morning service at the synagogue would have finished. The synagogue is in use throughout the day, and such a position doesn't take into account other services and gatherings. The onus should not be on others to change their behaviour, such as leaving by a specific time in order to accommodate the needs of the protest group. A map showing that the tightly limited area where the police are at the time of writing allow Gaza protesters to assemble this weekend. They will then be allowed to march to Whitehall and must be dispersed by 4:30 p.m. and are banned from going near the BBC. So anyone participating in the PSC demonstration must form up in Russell Square in the area shown on the map, not Portland Place, Whitehall, or any other previously advertised location. That's what they're stating there. And the map showing where Gaza protesters are banned from this Saturday. So this is the area where they've supposedly been banned from. Supposedly. Left-wing MPs have reacted with fury at the police decision to impose such a strict condition. London Labour MP Dawn Butler told Byline Times, "I am clear that the Met Police must not interfere with people's legitimate right to protest. It is a fundamental part of our democracy to protest. So as long as the law is lawful and peaceful, then it should be allowed to go ahead just like any other. We must not lose sight of the fact that people are rightly concerned about devastation and the loss of life they are seeing in Gaza and across the region. People are marching because they feel they must do something, and we must support this right." Another MP, Brian Lichman MP, added, "The march organised by the Palestine Solidarity Campaign this weekend should proceed as planned and previously agreed. The right to protest is a cornerstone of any functioning democracy, and it's unacceptable for the rights to be undermined. Media organisations such as the BBC must be accountable for the public and must never be shielded from scrutiny. This protest is focusing on holding the BBC accountable. There is no evidence to suggest that this demonstration represents a threat to anyone attending synagogues nearby. Hundreds have spoken out against this ban, showing just how widely these concerns are shared." He added that blocking the march would set a dangerous precedent. "I urge the Metropolitan Police to consider and allow the protest to proceed as planned." And nearly 40 MPs have signed a motion in Parliament condemning the behaviour of the Met Police, saying that they were alarmed by attempts by the Metropolitan Police to prevent an agreed march for the Palestine from protesting at the BBC. Signatories including former Labour Shadow Chancellor John MacDonald, Labour MP John Treckitts and Clive Lewis, and Green Party MPs including co-leader Carlia Denyer. We'll have to wait and see. Obviously, at the time of this recording is obviously before Saturday. I want to stress that again. So we'll have to wait and see. But obviously, I understand the concerns. I do understand the concerns of the Jewish representatives here. They're concerned about their well-being, but the legitimacy of the protest is towards the BBC in the way that they are conducting themselves and the way they have been reporting on what's happening in Gaza. And let's be clear, we know that many British media outlets are not been reporting correctly and accurately of what's been happening in Gaza, when we know many of them are more pro-Israel and when it comes to fairness and when it comes to that. But luckily there are good media outlets that have been reporting what's happening and even have their own reporters inside Gaza that's been showing what's been happening as well. Now obviously we don't know, like I said, because this is being recorded on Friday, we don't know what the outcome of the protest will be. But one thing that I do know is that people need to be able to have the right to be able to freely protest. But obviously if they go across that line, if they breach that line and become violent or become vocal or disrupt or when I say disruptive isn't the right word, but do anything that would be a threat to other people, then obviously they need to be dealt with. And so far, most Palestinian protests, most of these Gaza protests have been with respectful, peaceful. With regards, the majority of them have been peaceful since October the 7th, and they've been very good at that. But what do you guys think? What do you guys make of the Gaza protests that have consistently been going for a long time now? And do you think they are a concern? Obviously, these protests will obviously have an impact on what's going to be happening in the Middle East right now with regards at the moment, currently to a ceasefire deal. Whether or not it will be signed or not is one thing up for question. But what do you make of everything surrounding this situation? Let me know your thoughts and more down in the comments section below. Now, if you found this video informative, please hit that like button. Be greatly appreciated. Share this across social media so others are notified of this video. And if you haven't subscribed already, please consider subscribing because it really does help support the channel. If you want to go one step further and find support me and the work that I do here, you can do so by becoming a YouTube member for as little as 99p, or join me on Rumble or Patreon for exclusive content on those platforms. So thank you all so much for watching, and I hope to catch you all very, very soon.